Welcome again to Content Creation Secrets course. And in this module 3, I'm going to teach you how to create massive information with pre-made content. What I mean by pre-made content is that you can legally use this existing content which you can already find on the internet, or sometimes for free and sometimes for low cost. You can actually legally use them. It really saves you time from writing from scratch in most cases, and especially if you don't have the information yourself, but some other experts have already done them for you, and there's actually a way to use them legally and put your name on it, believe it or not. There are two types of pre-made content that I have identified. The first type is the public domain content. Now, what is public domain? Public domain simply means works that were created and first published before 1st January 1923, or at least 95 years before January 1st of the current year, whichever is later. In many cases, a public domain normally means you can actually have no restriction of use to it. That means you can freely use it anyhow you want, and this is because after so many years, the copyright holder has expired, and the author of the company is no longer around in most cases, with the exception of maybe some of the famous works that came from the earliest 20th century, like Dale Carnegie and so on. But most of the time, the public domain is free from the copyright because they've already been expired and the authors are normally no longer around. Statistically speaking, 15% of the books in the world today are originated from public domain or are in the public domain. This is something very good and you can actually use it to your advantage. However, I want to warn you that public domain, although the good thing about it is that you can actually put your name on as an author and claim the content as your own. The problem is that information by now is normally obsolete, and I would like to mention that at that time, the command of English was quite different than it is today in a modern society. The best and the safest bet is that you use public domain information in areas that are time-tested, like principles, self-improvement, and some food recipes, because these are time-tested and has been proven. But I warn you that you have to do quite some reworking about the English, especially and simply public domain titles that are time-tested. Again, this is quite possible to get it done overnight or at the most a couple of days, but it's very possible to do it even overnight. So when you have a public domain content all arranged, you can actually create your own information product and get this done even by today. But do take note, not every single public domain book have expired their copyright, as I've said before, because things like the Bible, for example, you can just claim it even though you can't just claim it even though the Bible may be 2,000 years and older, and you can't just put your name as the author, things like that, which is quite ridiculous. Here are two links that I can show you on where to get public domain, and I think these are good sources. The first one is publicdomainmastery.com. The second one is gutenberg.org. Now, the second type of pre-made content, and personally this is my favorite, and I think it is better than public domain in a couple of respects, is that this is called private label rights. In a nutshell, just like public domain, you can put your name as the author and edit the contents. Now, there are different types of private label rights, so I'm going to break it down further for you, the three different types. The first type is non-transferable private label rights. This means that although you can put your name as the author and edit the contents, you normally cannot resell the private label rights of the source code. So this is just for your own rights to use, and when you sell it to your customers, they are the end users. The second type differs from the first type. It's called private label and master rights, which means that besides selling it to the end users, you can also resell the private label rights to your customers or resellers. And the third type is quite similar to public domain. It's the no restriction private label rights. And I think this is self-implied, which means there are absolutely no restrictions at all. You can do almost anything or anything you want with it. Now, when you compare private label rights to public domain, this is much better in every respect, in the sense that private label rights are a relatively new concept to the internet marketing arena. And so this means that the contents are much more updated, timely, and modern. Like, for example, obviously 100 years ago there's no internet, so you can't find books about the internet at the time, obviously. But there are a lot of books on things that are current today, like the internet, iPhone, how to use technology, gadgets, and things like that, which we cannot find in public domains. Here are two places which I think you can get good private label rights or PLR content. PrivateLabelRightsGold.com and plrgoldvias.com. These are coming from some of the best providers of private label rights, and I really recommend that you get your source of PLR contents from these sites. Just to let you know, pre-made content does not have to be limited to written content, so it's not just about ebooks and articles. Any kind of works that are created in public domain, including music and even audio for that matter, are also content and that you can actually use. And today, private label rights are not just limited to ebooks or articles. You can also get PLR software and PLR videos. I hope this helps you get a jump start with your content creation empire.